I grew up in a small village in Nimroz province. I didn't go to school because we didn't have one near us. My father imported fabric for women's clothing from Iran and sold it in the main bazaar in Zaranj city. One night in December 1979, the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan. I was 9 years old. My life changed forever. We fled our village 3 months later and crossed the border to Iran. We rented a house in Zahedan, which is 3 hours away from my hometown Zaranj by car. My father started exchanging money in the market. I had to help too. I bought bread from the bakery and sold it to those walking by. Within a year, my father opened a shop and started transferring money to Afghanistan, Pakistan, and other cities in Iran. He asked me to work for him. I was responsible for finding clients and expanding our network because moving money was not done via the banks. We got most of our work through the word-of-mouth recommendations. Things were going so well for us that we were able to buy our own house. I met a fellow refugee and we were married in 1989. In 1992, we heard the Russian-backed government in Kabul had collapsed and the Mujahideen were in power. My father decided to return home. We had a shared capital of $150,000. My father invested all of that in a tractor and car showroom in Zaranj. He was buying and selling these vehicles using Afghani currency. He converted everything he had to Afghani. Little did he know that it would soon lose value. I asked my father for a loan of $1,000. With that, I opened a flour mill in the village, bought a truck and a container. I then exchanged the mill for some land, used the container as a shop inside Afghanistan, and the truck to transport goods in and out of Iran. I made contacts across the province with people who were involved in trading opium. I suggested that I would be happy to buy their product to sell it across the border using my container as a base. People brought their supplies from different Afghan provinces to Nimroz. I would then carry it in my truck to Iran. I managed this by giving bribes to the commanders in charge. In a few years, I made $50,000. One day, an Afghan friend who was based in Iran came to convince me that we should go into partnership. I would deal with the Afghans, buying their stock, and he would sell it to the Iranians. We would split the profit 50-50. I agreed. I bought $80,000 worth of opium and placed it in the cars of people he had hired. He sold it all and sent me my share. Smuggling opium and selling it in Iran was very dangerous because anyone caught doing it was executed, which is why I didn't even tell my family. For the second shipment, I sent him $90,000 worth of sticky paste. But he informed me that the Iranian authorities had confiscated it all. I lost everything. But I soon found out that my associate had continued to buy the substance from other suppliers. After a few months of hiding from me, I was told he had been arrested. He spent 6 months in a jail until an Iranian court sentenced him to execution. In 1999, I gave up smuggling drugs for good. I began smuggling embroidery machines and vehicle spare parts from Afghanistan to Iran, but I didn't make enough money to live on. Then in the early 2000s, I met an old acquaintance who would bring groups of young men and some families to Zaranj. He would find them accommodation and put them in touch with drivers to take them to Iran. He said, "There's a lot of money to be made here." I accepted the offer. Agents brought people from all over Afghanistan. One of us helped them find places to stay. Someone else drove them to the border crossing with Iran. And a third person, in this case me, took them from the border to further inside Iran. I moved between 400 to 500 people a month. We charged between $200 and $250 per person. The travelers and agents agreed on this price in advance. Over the years, I built good relations with people and police at checkpoints, but I still had to pay bribes on both sides of the border. Over the years, the Iranian authorities introduced stricter controls on the border, building walls and new checkpoints. By 2018, taking people from Afghanistan to Iran became very dangerous, so I stopped. Instead, together with a man I knew from the area, we invested $25,000 renting 4 shops and a restaurant in the border bazaar of Melak on the Afghan side. Every day, there were 600 to 700 people passing through this township. And most would shop with us and eat at our restaurant. I was satisfied with this life. But in March 2020, coronavirus changed everything. My shops and restaurant were closed. I had to sell a house I owned in Zaranj so I could live on the money. Now I don't know which way to go.